Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is BSL 17 Hasuleague quarterfinal. This time we got Rotj starting the upper right hand corner as the yellow Protoss going up against Imjiriaya bottom left hand corner as the blue Zerg. Jiraiya, I think he's faced a lot of Protoss on the way up, so he might be in better practice than Rotj, who I think mostly faced PvP on the way here, if I am recalling that correctly. I may not be. But this should be an intense one. Honestly, I feel like the Jiraiya has that bag of builds where he can throw nearly anything out at his opponent, and Rotj is also clever and can throw out a lot his opponent. And as far as skill level, I think they're about equal. Again, I feel like either one of these guys could end up in the final very easily depending on how things play out. It looks like we are going to see an initial pylon for Rotj, which leads me to believe he's thinking about gateway first. Probe is returning. Usually you send that probe out if you're trying to sneak a quick nexus or test whether you're going to get the Forge first or the Nexus first. We have seen movement more towards Overpool these days from Zerg. This is a 4-player map on Retro. I'm wondering if this is going to cause Jiraiya to move more towards Overpool, which has been kind of the shift meta versus the gateway openers. We have the probe making its way back down at that 150 mark and trying to be there quickly, which suggests this is going to be gateway first. Overlord's out. We have some additional drones being collected. It looks like that Overlord's making its way to the top left-hand corner first for Jiraiya. This is cross positions, which will make the initial Zealot harass a little bit more challenging, but if as far as just a direct route, but if Rotj, looks like we are seeing a 12 hatch or 11 hatchery, I should say, by the way, out of Jiraiya. However, if Rotj utilizes, and this is something I've seen DeWalt do better than nearly anybody in the foreigner scene, if he kind of uses the cross distance to keep the Zealots out in the field and active and in the dark, and finds key opportunities to pounce in the later stages of the game, rather than dedicating them to just putting them behind mineral lines. I could see him having a lot of success with that. That is something I could see Rotj doing overall. Looks like spawning pool is being dropped. No gas at the 205 or etc. mark, so probably not going to see 2-hatch Mutalisk. More likely going to see... We'll see if we see a 3rd hatch before gas, or if we're going to see a gas before hatchery here from Jiraiya. Hatchery about 3/4 out. The first Zealot out, however, it doesn't have a target location, and a probe scout. Probe also did not scout, interestingly enough. So it's gateway first into Nexus without any additional information here from Rotj. So rather than going for Forge first, he wants to make sure he's getting the initial Zealots so that he can apply. This is kind of interesting play. I haven't seen this before. So going ahead and dropping the Nexus, but leaving an initial Zealot to go ahead and blockade the ramp just in case there's a Zergling run by, and then producing additional Zealots to go from there. And it looks like we are seeing a 3rd hatchery. I think the extractor did plant down before that hatchery, but it wasn't that large a time gap. In the meantime, probe's going ahead to cycle down to saturate that natural expansion. We are seeing at least 2 Zerglings, both players very much in the dark right this second. So now 2 Zealots holding the ramp as that Nexus is building. Kind of like this play from Rotj, honestly, because one problem for the Forge first opener for Protoss players has been that you end up with a smaller Zealot count in the mid game to be able to apply any pressure versus Zerg, and Zergs have adapted quite well to that. But one problem for Protoss early game with the gateway openers is having a sealable front door to prevent the Zergling run-bys. So now 2 Zerglings being sent out, so Jiraiya is going to have the better half of the information here. Overlords scouted at the 12 o'clock, but this is still... And actually, if Jiraiya, he's got eyes on where that probe's located. Now that he's found the base and sees that it's a front door seal and sees that Forge in position, he could actually maybe dedicate some Zerglings. If he gets a move on, he can get to that upper left-hand corner to go ahead and take that drone out of vision. But it looks like instead he's going to draw that Zergling back to the natural expansion. Well, maybe that's moving up to dedicate this. I believe this probe is going to have an easy time discovering that 9 o'clock expansion. We should let Rotj know that he's up against initial 3 base player. That layer about halfway finished. I presume this is going to go into 4 base Spire play. Probe scouting, seeing actually even drone transfer up to that 9 o'clock. Single Zergling and nothing else. And I'm wondering if this is going to provoke Rotj. It is a cross position. Right now, just that single Zergling scouting out for Jiraiya to see if there's any sort of movement. A preventative cannon out on the front. That unfortunately Rotj didn't have sufficient information to recognize whether he needed it or not. But look at this. We're seeing a skip of Stargate and an immediate movement to Citadel of Adun. And this is a 4th hatchery from Jiraiya. So, and he is dropping the Spire behind this. But I'm curious if this will be for earlier DT play, or more likely for faster Zealot leg speed, for a more impactful Zealot leg, a little bit faster impactful Zealot +1 speed. All the Zealots starting to fan out. And right now, Jiraiya does not quite have the groupings of Zerglings to defend against it. So we got 4 Zealots, 5 Zealots on kind of a widespread moving to the 9 o'clock location. Only 4 Zerglings right this second to try to defend. This could actually be a dead hatchery right here. A lot of them moving to the natural expansion. Jiraiya should have been able to... So he kept the Zergling behind, so he knows they're here, but he just doesn't have the raw army to defend against this. So now engaging, but the Zealots are pretty well spread out, which is giving Jiraiya an advantage. Sunken Colony getting dropped. Rotj actually peeling back to get better surface area engagement. And now additional Zerglings have... I think Rotj actually might have gotten... And actually, it's a hatchery, not an additional expansion. I'm wondering if Rotj actually, if he pressed all the way to the drone line, he might have had some more success with this. But now, Jiraiya, with a lot of Zerglings out in the field, Rotj trying to pull back and keep these Zealots alive, prevent them from getting surrounded, doing a pretty good job of engaging the Zerglings piecemeal and trying to micro back as best he can, but they are in fact going to get dispatched. So Jiraiya with the now has just absolute map control, and unfortunately with this, so now there's 3 Zealots and second photon cannon. The front +1 weapons is going to finish, and that quick Zealot leg speed is going to finish, but there's not going to be a lot of Zealots to man out in the field to really capitalize on that fast leg speed. And it looks like there was a Stargate behind this. Scourge and Mutalisk are going to take the air, and I don't think there's a defensive cannon in the main. Templar Archive's coming out. Overlord might get tacked away at, but if Rotj doesn't move the forward scout up, these Mutalisks could wreak a lot of havoc. There's no defensive cannon in the back line at the natural expansion, and the Mutalisks, yeah, in flight, making their way now to the natural expansion. This could be a lot of lost mining time. The Zealots starting to fan out, but the Zerglings going to be able to engage them, might hold them in place. Looks like the Scourge managed to find the Corsair to the north. That's wiped out. The Mutalisks, however, drawing back. And this is a bit of a missed opportunity here for Jiraiya. I guess he's not all that concerned. But the Zealots starting to... He wants to engage the Zealots, but maybe not calculating the fact that he engaged the Zealots much, much earlier. Or perhaps just wants to deal with the Zealot force. But I feel like if he had dedicated maybe a Sunken Colony and move those Mutalisks into attack, he could have wreaked an immense amount of damage on Rotj. He's still going to be able to clean these Zealots up, like 2 splitting to the 6 o'clock location, really taxing Jiraiya's multitasking. We have 3 hatcheries, so this is 6 hatch, and we do have a Sunken Colony behind this. And let's see if the Zealots manage to get any sort of drone kills. The drone's pulling out, so it's a little bit of economic damage. These drones honestly could defend themselves against these Zealots at this stage, considering how damaged they are, and they're, yeah, easily cleaned up. +1 weapons and a photon cannon finally dropping at the natural expansion, but are there enough? Corsair still okay. We have 1 Corsair back here, so Rotj now in a better defensive position against any sort of air assault. So, and not even an Overlord was taken out. So Jiraiya in a great position. He's got the worker lead. He's got all sorts of hatcheries. He's capping that 3rd gas. He's easily going to be able to make a transition to Hydralisks should he decide to do so. He's sitting at 6 hatcheries overall. Has firm map control with Zerglings out in the field. We had movement to Templar Tech. We do have Lair Tech. I don't think Overlord speed is upgraded, so that Dark Templar could be a big factor here. Certainly going to be able to, well, see if it can take out some, yeah, it's taking out some Zerglings midfield, and when units die like that, there is no alert. And it looks like Jiraiya has not, in fact, spotted that. We actually also, Psystorm has not been upgraded, and these are going to be 3 vulnerable High Templar. Are going to have to rely on cannon defense right now to stay alive. +1 armor is not there yet as well, and it looks like Jiraiya is going to potentially make a strike towards the main. Never mind, he's drawing back with the Mutalisks once again. He had the Scourge alongside to take out the Corsair. There's only 2 cannons to deal with, I just select out the Mutalisks, to deal with 8 Mutalisks. So I do believe the Mutalisks would have won in that scenario, but not dedicating right there. So missing a bit of an opportunity. Not that it's one he needs to capitalize on, because he's still sizably ahead. Trying to find, I think he saw the edge of that Dark Templar, wanted to try to catch it, and Overlord's making the way back. Second Evolution Chamber being dropped. That is one aspect where Rotj is going to be in a pretty decent position, is along that upgrade, because he did prioritize that +1 weapons. Overlord speed now being upgraded, so maybe Jiraiya feeling a little bit less comfortable also moving out with map presence. But right now he's got a Overlord spotted that Dark Templar, but that Dark Templar able to sit on the edge of range. A couple of Dragoons being built in the space of this. We do have a good amount of Corsair that are being added on to help deal with to try to protect those High Templars should they move out. But this is going to be a lot of energy on these High Templars. So it's possible that Rotj just gets some amazing Psy Storms and he's able to move out. But he doesn't have much of a ground army outside of just, well, I guess he has some Dragoons, he has some Zealots. Has managed to take a bit of a supply lead, but he's not at the supply count you really want to be at versus Zerg, whereas you want to be like 10, 15, or 20 ahead to feel like you're in a comfortable position. In the meantime, Jiraiya still trying to find that Dark Templar hidden out in space. A drone making its way top left. He's also capping the 6 o'clock location. Jiraiya opting to play defensive macro for the long term. The Corsairs grouping up. It looks like that Zergling's going to be a forewarning system right there. This Overlord's probably going to get taken out top left. That hatchery probably going to get detected as well. Some Hydralisks making the way up. But if that Overlord gets taken out, that will be a canceled hatchery, which is going to be a small victory for Rotj. I don't know that it's going to be sufficient overall. So that's wiped out. The Dark Templar is not dedicating there. It looks like instead it's going to clear those Zerglings out to the north. The Mutalisks are looking to try to force an engagement here. So the Overlord's getting pecked away at. The Scourge able to land. Now they're going to draw back. That's 2 dead Overlords. Is that enough to supply? It doesn't look like that's going to be sufficient to supply cap. So the Overlord does make it to the top left-hand corner, which means it's going to be an additional base with that defensive detection potentially in the upper left. Zergling taking out the 12 o'clock to maybe clear out a third. Rotj has not made any movements towards a third, but Jiraiya doing what he honestly should in this stage, which is continue to macro up, continue to bolster up your economy so you don't end up getting outscaled. We got 6 gateways down. Range just finishing. We'll see upon range completion if we see movement. No movement to Lurker, by the way, which is honestly... Sorry, I take that back. We have a couple Lurkers being built, but not a massive Lurker army mid-game, which is something that is pretty typical with the 6-hatch Mutalisk. The Mutalisk kind of cut into the mid-game Lurker count as far as gas saturation and a bit of delays and whatnot. Rotj moving to the 3 o'clock, trying to clear that out, maybe to establish that base for himself. Mutalisk moving up. Keep in mind, these aren't +1 weapons, Corsairs, but he ate a lot of free damage. And I'm going to try to sneak back, is able to wipe out 1. That gives him air superiority. So those Mutalisks are going to draw back. That front gateway's been taken out by Rotj. Supply counts are even. And it looks like he is going to go ahead and cap that 3 o'clock base. But unfortunately for him, he's grabbing this third while Jiraiya is already starting to saturate. So he has top left. He also has the 6 o'clock location. If he saturates them decently well, he'll be in a really strong economic position. The Mutalisks pushing in. I'm not sure if they managed to get any High Templar or not. Few of them lost their lives. We've got 3 maxed out High Templar as far as Psystorm goes. So Rotj can force a couple fights here and might have some success with it. And that could be the turning... That could turn the tide for him depending on where he opts to engage. So he's got that 3 o'clock base up. Those High Templar also provide some really solid macro defense. Jiraiya is still ahead in the overall macro war and sealing up, but now that large army of Rotj starting to move out. And we got a big, keep in mind, we got a big pocket of Lurkers here top left. Jiraiya's kind of put himself in a situation where he's having to defend Caddy Corner, and Rotj has one shot to sway the tides here, is getting a really massive attack into a particular location. It looks like he is going to have success with that, potentially at the 6 o'clock, unless there's a massive Lurker morph and then a reinforcement. They could also be at attack the natural. There's a lot of Hydralisks right there, but keep in mind, so we got the Mutalisks up here, we got some Lurkers up here. This is the bulk of the army split up for Jiraiya. He still hasn't burrowed these Lurkers. Okay, now they're burrowing. Rotj delaying, backing up a little bit, waiting for his Observer to come alongside. Observer a little bit delayed, and actually this is going to give Jiraiya forewarning to maybe queue up some troops and set up for a swarm at one location or another. The Mule is starting to dive forward. Some Overlord's going to get caught midfield, but honestly these are just small victories that are not going to put Rotj... He does have a little bit of a supply lead, but this is still 3 bases versus 5 and a natural getting grabbed. No gas yet for Jiraiya. He is at Hive Tech though, which means he's going to be able to pump a lot of upgrades, and particularly that Adrenal upgrade of Zerglings can really sway the tides overall. Hydralisks moving out mid-map. Jiraiya has swarmed absolutely everywhere. He's got a Hydralisk army. I think he's trying to find his opponent to try to pick off these High Templar. Mid-map. Rotj has slotted in between, where he's a threat at the natural expansion, also the 9 o'clock. Jiraiya just now discovering and gonna try to collapse, and he wants to find those High Templar immediately. The High Templar towards the rear, which is a big benefit to Rotj overall. Overlord's getting wiped out in the midst of this by those Corsairs, and it's actually supply capping Jiraiya, but Jiraiya is still able to swarm and pick apart this army. Some nice Psystorm dodges right there. And Rotj's supply is absolutely plummeting. The Hydrals backing out and attempting to re-engage as best they can. Resupply on both ends, but again, Jiraiya up 20 supply overall. It looks like the Lurkers repositioning from that upper left-hand corner. Those Corsair are still active, though, overall and free, and it looks like Jiraiya's standing army has mostly been picked apart. Corsairs engaging Mutalisks, which isn't the fight that Jiraiya was looking for in the upper left-hand corner, but this is still a large standing army. Rotj now repositioning to attack top left. Some Lurkers are there. The Observer's still there. Unfortunately, Rotj is coming in piecemeal rather than with a concentrated army. That's going to give Jiraiya some time, first of all, to pick off some of the wandering troops, but maybe mount a counter defense. He's got some Lurkers morphing up on the high ground. Psystorm over a single Lurker and clearing out the Mutalisks right there. This might be a dead natural expansion. Some Zealots actually getting blockaded by their own High Templar as far as a reinforcement point, and a swarm of Lurkers and Hydralisks trying to move up, eating a massive amount of Psystorm as they're coming up to support, to Rotj's advantage. Unfortunately, Rotj still down on supply overall. He does need to wipe out these bases top left. Honestly, he needs to wipe out the bases top left and the 6 o'clock to mount the defense. And unfortunately, now his troops have been expended. Some beautiful Psystorms. He's actually done great at some of the trades in these engagements overall, but he's still, as a result of all of the macro, even in supply. So moving up, Observer's going to get almost picked off, has just about 2 health left. High Templar still have a little bit of energy in the meantime. Rotj just looking to get some favorable trades. He's trying to take a fourth at the 12 o'clock. But I think the problem right now is that if he sits back on Jiraiya, Jiraiya's just going to out-macro him over the long term. He's regathering an army, and he's at the stage where the upgrades are starting to filter in. If Jiraiya can just group up and macro, get the troops across the map, get the overlords filtered out, he should be able to turn around and punish this 12 o'clock base. Or maybe punish the 3 o'clock if he can get some Defilers in play. And it looks like some Defilers are just now taking the match. Some additional gas being tacked down, and that is going to be... That's a lot of gas. So we got 5 gas, 6 gas, 6 gas Zerg, which is terrifying for any opponent. Rotj, however, able to sneak a supply lead. He is starting to establish that 12 o'clock base. I don't see the Reavers in position as of yet. He's got 8 gateways behind this. Some cannons to help defend there at the 3 o'clock. Looks like it is going to be Lurker Hydra in the late game. Some Zealots wanting to march to the 6 o'clock. They're just checking bottom right to make sure that hasn't been established from Jiraiya. And Jiraiya is starting to move his swarm along that southern flank. Needs to be a little bit careful because Rotj still does have a powerful army near top left. Rotj kind of in the position where he wants to try to... I actually kind of like his positioning here because he can simultaneously defend and threaten top left. The Zealots now sweeping in. We have an unburrowed Lurker. Now it's burrowing. The Zealots going to draw back. This is causing Jiraiya to have a little bit of an overreaction and overstaging his army to bottom right, assuming that was the forward spear of the rest of that attack force, where Rotj's... The majority of his army is out of position. Instead, though, Jiraiya going to reposition and assault the 3 o'clock. Rotj trying to reinforce. Dark Swarm's already down, and if Lurkers can establish the high ground, it's going to be very difficult for Rotj to attack into this, and the Zerglings can just do their work behind this. You can see how quickly they shred everything else. So Rotj's units, just swirling right here because they're not able to get up to the high ground. And if the Zerglings just concentrate on that nexus, Jiraiya can just go ahead and back out with what's left, and that's exactly what he's doing, attacking that, gonna have to, backing up for there, and now he should make a beeline top left, just to make sure that he doesn't get counterattacked by Rotj at that position. He is, in fact, doing that, trying to reposition. Rotj recognizing that he was going to go for a cross-map reinforcement. Jiraiya halting a few units in between. Does he have Plague upgraded is the next question. To soften up these Zealots, it looks like perhaps not. He has Dark Swarm, but that's not gonna help. Consumed 2 of his units to get nothing out of that Defiler. Rotj attacking this unit wholesale. Great Psystorms. His Psystorms have been absolutely beautiful up to this stage. However, Jiraiya is still up 20 supply. Man, if the Psystorms have anything to say about it, though, they're gonna equalize things altogether. More Zerglings swarming in to delay. It looks like the leftover, kind of the battered troops from the earlier engagement moving in. Lurkers redropping. They are fairly bunched. Need to spread out a bit, otherwise Psystorm could be devastating. Trying to see how much energy. There are several Psystorms up. Jiraiya actually dedicating those troops forward a little bit. Empty Psystorm. He's left a group of Lurkers there at the 3 o'clock in the meantime. But upon defending this and knocking out that base, Jiraya's main, or sorry, Rotj's main is mined out. His natural expansion's mined out. He's down just to the single base at the 12 o'clock. And Jiraiya has multiple healthy bases with which to push out troops. He's repositioning a lot of the troops towards that natural expansion to cut off reinforcements. Lurkers finding some High Templar, potentially to burrow. There is an observer ahead. They are bunched to the Psystorm, obliterating them rapidly. But that's still Psystorm expended on a smaller troop grouping rather than a larger troop bunching. Unfortunately for Jiraiya, that might have opened up the opportunity to re-grab the 3 o'clock location. The Overlords need to move out. The problem for Rotj, though, is if he neglects that 12 o'clock location, a Defiler can easily move from the upper left, drop a Dark Swarm, and Zerglings can swarm and take out that 12 o'clock base as well. However, Rotj may be opening up some additional minerals here by re-grabbing that 3 o'clock. It looks like Jiraiya going to engage maybe the uphill attack. Let's see if he turns around from this engagement. He is opting instead to reposition top left. Does he have a Defiler here, top left? It looks like not. One is sitting near his natural expansion. If he drops, looks like Rotj has now managed to reinforce. Rotj, so dropping a Nexus and repositioning. Jiraiya at 200 supply, briefly in the red because of an Overlord being downed. See where we are upgrade-wise as well. Level 3 armor, level 3 shields, level 3 armor, level 2 weapons, so pretty close. Overall, still slight advantage for Rotj. In that aspect, Adrenal Upgrade tends to help negate that versus Zealots in the late game, and Dark Swarm versus the everything else as well. Now we see a Dark Swarm to the north. Rotj walking down the ramp to drop some Psystorm. There are 2 more High Templar here that have plenty of Psystorm to try to open things up. Jiraiya poking at this piecemeal, but it looks like Rotj has staged another large army. Big plague. Ayaya out in Twitch chat land, by the way. Rotj actually speculatively dropping those Psystorms, which he needs to be careful doing because he's going to need those Psystorms potentially down the line. More Dark Swarm dropped. The Zergling's able to clear out what's left of the cannons. And more units just peeling forward now for Jiraiya. And this might be a dead 12 o'clock. Counterattack now from Rotj, but they're running into a defensive Lurker minefield. The Observer finally repositioning. They're not going to be in time to save that 12 o'clock, and we've got more Lurkers in between. Some nice Psystorms. Plague hitting a little bit here, but Jiraiya just needs to regroup, re-macro, and make sure he tosses everything top left, and he should be okay. Rotj simply doesn't have the economy to keep up. More Psystorm dropping. Is he going to be able to penetrate and grab that natural expansion and at least do an exchange for an exchange? Rotj unfortunately down to 10 workers, so this is potentially his last hurrah. Might just have to do it with, if he's going to win it, he's got to do it with the ground army he's got right this second. He's down 70 supply. Keep in mind, 60 of that is workers, so the armies are actually even. Hydralisk backing up now out of that 12 o'clock location, trying to pincer into this and wipe things out. The Dark Swarm working to the Dragoon's advantage right this second, but Zergling's able to sneak up in there. More Psystorm trying to fight off the reinforcements as they're peeling across. All the workers have been sent. Well, never mind. It's just units there at the 3 o'clock location, so there's a base up, but nothing there. And Rotj recognizing that he's just got out macroed over the long term, so going to call GG right there. Hope you guys enjoyed it. An intense one in game 1. Appreciate all your viewership. Thank you for listening.